Welcome back to Just Drive It. Today we're going to be working on this 1972 Ford F100 doing a carb swap. So follow along with us. Well, as you can tell, we're out here at the house, not at the ranch, and we always got a little bit of extra noise from the neighbors or wind coming from that direction. But what we're going to end up doing here is fix a few issues. One of our main issues has been that even though it is the same list number and the same carburetor as what I have on the 67 Fastback, I've had nothing but trouble with this carburetor. If at first it wasn't the bowls going bad, then I'll get the thing to where it's nice and cleaned out, idling perfect, and then it decides it doesn't want to run down the road perfect. Or if it runs down the road perfect, it doesn't want to idle. Even with the manual choke hooked up and stuff, something's wrong with it. There's actually an opinion that possibly I've got a worn out shaft on the base plate, but right now I'm just going to kind of pull it off, lay it to the side, go through it one more time. But while we're doing that, I've got another carburetor that we're going to be putting. All right, enter in the new carb from Allstate Carburetors. Now granted, I say new, it's reman, but these guys are real reliable. So they run it after they reman it. And some people are going to go, why are you going to another Edelbrock? Well, it's not just any Edelbrock. We're going to an AVS2. It's got a automatic choke on it, which we'll deal with in a little while. And it comes with gaskets and the wires for the choke. However, we'll give it a try, see if this fixes our problem for now. I've wanted to try one of these AVS2s, and in all reality, the old motor that was in here actually ran better with the Edelbrock than it did with the Holley. This one seemed to like the Holley, but I'm having issues with the Holley. So we'll see where we end up. Okay, well, yes, we have found our culprit. Yeah, that shaft is moving pretty good, doggone good. So, base plate is the problem. So, not necessarily carb, it's that the base plate is wore out. So either I get a different base plate or I try to fix that one. Bummer. Oh well, we'll see where we go. Alright, so back again. We're going to be changing gaskets, especially on this spacer here. Down here in Texas, it tends to get hot just like it does in other sections of the South, and this thing will come off, right? So we tend to add these spacers. Oh wow, yeah, everything's wet here. Maybe even those gaskets were bad. I don't know. We'll clean those up. Check it out. But we've got two brand new gaskets, and we got that spacer ready to go. Ooh, yeah, these are gonna be more than just a little bit. So now we've got this particular intake cleaned up a little bit. You can still see debris in the background. This truck sits way too much to be able to really keep that kind of stuff out of here. But what most people are going to be queuing in on is this right here. So on these old Fords like this, if you had a T intake manifold, which we're going off of this, I also have an S at the house, but that is for another vehicle that I have. So we have the T for the truck manifold, or it may be Thermactor. I don't know what the T in all honesty stands for. Some people say it's truck, some people says it's Thermactor, some people It's just Ford's designation. But what ended up happening is you have a exhaust crossover on this thing, and it comes up right here. Now normally there's an EGR plate that fits here with an EGR valve that comes off the back, but this fills in on that for preheating the carb. Well, down here we don't like that extra heat, hence why that's plugged, and I use a phenolic spacer in between the intake and the carb to try to keep the heat down, especially with the ethanol fuels these days. And in the case of the Performer Edelbrock that I used to have on here, a lot of times it would boil off the gas if I didn't have the spacer in there. What I ended up doing at the time, I was young, this was my first foray into hot rodding and stuff, is I actually cut a post off of a battery and pounded it in there with a rubber mallet, of all things. And that may sound weird, but I used the rubber mallet, filed on it a little bit. Probably not the best idea considering that's lead, but it blocked it off. I've never had an issue with that portion sealing, so we're good. But as you can see, it would have stuck up. So this fixed that problem, and if you're looking for a cast iron intake in the junkyard because you can't afford an aluminum one, and you see one of these without the spacer, you can plug that off. That is possible. So don't just pass by it and say, oh, there's none there, when you can actually fix it right. Or not right, but modify it. All right, you see we've got the carburetor partway on. Something that I always ran into and I always forget about until I try to put it in is, let's see, yeah, right here. I always run some washers, as you can see right there, on my carburetors. But in this case, if you look here, there's always an issue getting the washer past that, so you actually have to put the washers on with the carburetor up. Sorry for the echoiness, I'm under the hood. But that's something that I've always laughed about, because it's always fun. But we'll see how it goes. See if we can finish getting this thing set up, because I need to drive this thing here in a few minutes. So I went through and did a few things that I shouldn't have done because I didn't have enough parts here right now. Automatic choke is wired off at the moment, so it'll run. I haven't touched any of the adjustments whatsoever. That is just straight up. It started, it's running. And it's idling. So we'll see how it goes. Alright, I'll give you a driving impressions and stuff like that update on a short, but basically that's huge difference just based off of bolting it on and going, whereas the other one wouldn't even idle really well, even with the even with those choke on. But as you can see from what I showed you, there's air getting by the throttle shaft, so that would be why the Holley is messed up. I'm not going to say that one is better than the other, because like I said, I've got that same carburetor on my fastback and it runs good. But we'll get that fixed with some bushings, redo it, put it back into service either on this truck or on something else, probably on this truck again. But if you like this, please like, subscribe, Rumble if you're on Rumble. Thank you for coming along with us, and just remember, just drive it.